And that's another wonderful intro performed by our tech whiz, Brian Weinstein. Welcome, everybody, to the Reality Report here on Head in the Box. I'm Paul McGinley. It is Wednesday, March 20th. It's 9:27 p.m. We've got a special guest tonight. It's Sandy Seychelles from the Environmental Coffeehouse. And, of course, I've been watching some of her videos, and she watches some of ours. And of course, we're joined also by Brian Weinstein and from Bridgeton, New Jersey. So welcome, everybody.
I just want to check on. Hi, Sandy. You pronounce your last name Shelley's?
Oh, I'm Shellis, not
Shellis.
Seychelles. That's where Betsy DeVoe's brother went for that not so nice meeting, the Seychelles Island.
Right.
I'm Shellis, and
Shellis.
it's a silent O the way we spell it, but I married that name.
All
so.
right.
Oh, well, thank you for pointing that out, because I always wondered the correct pronunciation. So we're going to be talking probably about a variety of things, as we always do. What would you guys like to start off with tonight?
Well, I'll defer to Sandy.
Okay. Well, Brian and I were talking about this, and the basic thing is my channel and my Facebook are Environmental Coffeehouse, which we deal with everything under the environmental umbrella. So the Facebook page is constantly being populated with articles. Actually, it's very diverse. It's really diverse. There's a team, and other people do things. But I wanted to talk about something different, and I know your channel could handle this. I want to talk about the opiate crisis, and I wanted to kind of call it's like it's black and white issue, no middle ground. There's no middle ground, and I want to talk about why it happened from my research, from what I've learned, why it happened, why it's happening.
Great topic.
Yeah, it is, and well, I mean, if you want to let me get going, because
let's get rolling on that.
All right, let's get rolling. Okay, so basically, it's my experience in life, but I don't want to talk about myself, but I'm interested in this because when I started online, I was actually drafted to work. Well, it's not work, volunteer. There's no work here. It's for real progressives. At the time, they were supporting Bernie and all. I came on and I learned how to live stream, and I cut my teeth doing live streams on chronic pain patient discrimination, because I was feeling something was changing, but I didn't do a lot of the research because I wasn't feeling great. But we talked about it, and we felt the tides changing for people like us that suffer from chronic pain on a daily basis, which I have for a long time, since 2001. And I found an audience of females that actually follow me now, who have followed me through the enlightenment of learning about abrupt climate change. And I've really taken them down the rabbit hole, but we all had that one thing in common. So my experience took me to where I felt like, wow, I'm a mess. I have chronic problems. I have had 3 back surgeries. I have the newest one, which everyone knows on my channel about ad nauseum, the neck surgery with the hardware and all. And I suffer from pain there and some other diagnoses. And I'm not that much different from so many other people. But we were around 2017, the writing was on the wall that it was going to be, oh, you're not going to be able to use the pain medicine that you've used for a long time that gives you a life. And for me, I was a person that took one pill a day. You know, it was something that worked. It was time release. I could work.
What did they take away, Sandy, if I may ask? What?
Opana, and it got taken off the market.
Oh yeah, Opana. They took that off. I remember last year.
Yeah, I had the lowest dose. I even called the maker. You know, I wanted to know what was going on. I didn't understand it exactly, but I knew I felt like I was being treated differently, and so did a friend of ours. And our friend was a 70-year-old man, and he was a very active man. He had back problems. Had Harleys. He was cool. He was dating a girlfriend of mine who was younger. Well, they force tapered him, and he had severe spinal problems. They forced tapered him, and he had no medical relief, and subsequently he killed himself. And he had everything going for him. He had what most people look at and say, oh, you've made it. You have a beautiful home. You've got this, you've got that. You know, the material shit, which we all know doesn't really mean anything. But in that community, it did. And my husband said, I can't understand, how could somebody that, has made it do that, leave his kids? And I said, you've suffered pain. The man had chronic, intractable pain. He could not get relief. He felt the only way out was to take his life. So as I was going down the rabbit hole of abrupt climate change and the doomosphere and all, I also kept myself attuned to what was going on in this community, because my doctor at the time, we were always talking about this, medical cannabis, to be able to get this. So me and her have worked together. She was my primary for a long time. Wonderful doctor. We researched the medications together. I was a perfect patient. I never did anything wrong. And I couldn't understand why I felt like I was a drug seeker. You're forced to feel like that when you're asking for relief, especially now. And this is what it's become synonymous with, drug seeker. So I have a quote here. And this is from Dr. Thomas Klein. He is an advocate and he's an activist in this pain community. And there are a lot of activists now that I have found. There's Pain Rally. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't even have all the names, but I'm like learning about all these people. And I learned about a lot of it from Twitter, believe it or not. And that was because when I had my surgery in June, I was bored. And I laid in bed and got on Twitter, and I found this pain community, and I was learning from them. But here's a quote. I'm going to start out with this, and it gets a little political too. The no opiate crisis is so sick. People are denied pain meds when dying. Why? It seems pain patients or opium eaters are the newest hate and fear joining witches, communists, addicts, disabled, Black folks, Muslims, Hispanic, alcoholics, immigrants, and Native Americans, and chronic pain patients. That was his quote. And he's a big activist. I learned a lot from him. A lot of people don't like him. On the other side, they'll call him this is a pain pill mill doctor. He's not. He's not. But what's interesting for this is that I guess being a bit of a political statement, I want to segue into the things that are going on in this community, like Kirsten Gillibrand. I'm in New York. She is my senator. And she thinks she's going to do the right thing by introducing this bill to limit the amount of pain medication given to people, I guess, acute pain. I'm never going to say there was not abuse. I'm never going to say that there were never unscrupulous doctors or anything like that. But it's a case-by-case basis. And I don't see, she says, or in my opinion, if we want to end this, We have to understand those root causes of the abuse. But instead, Gillibrand and Gardner, they're going to introduce this legislation. It'll fix nothing, and it'll hurt people. It'll hurt people because basically they just want to make it look like they're doing something and not solve the problem. We've had the problem for 100 years. We've had Nancy Reagan's war on drugs. The just say no. Nothing has worked. And now it is chronic pain people. It's our turn. Think about this, guys. Tobacco. Do we call tobacco and alcohol epidemics?
No, absolutely.
No. But yet the statistics, and I'm going to read you the statistics, we use the same language for opioids that are linked to a fraction of the deaths from tobacco and alcohol. And in also vehicle deaths, right? So I'm going to give you a little statistic here, which is about the statistics. Prescription opioid overdose deaths. And this, in 2016, a total of 17,087 persons in the United States died from drug overdoses involving prescription opioids, natural and semi-synthetic opioids, example, oxycodone, hydrocodone, and methadone. The age-adjusted rate was 5.2 per 1,000, okay? All right. So we have that number. And I had sent you, Paul, I didn't know if you were able to put up a screen or not. I had sent you two screens, but it's okay because maybe I could
I looked at some of them.
I could be the Luddite.
Do those numbers include people who died from taking the meds even though they were not prescribed them?
Though that particular statistic is not indicative of... No, that one was not. But I have...
Because these things openly trade on the streets,
of course. And that's part of the problem. And that was what I was going to talk about. I have a bunch of websites open. There's the CDC statistics, and there are... the CDC is the big driver under all this. But what I found in my research and all these activists and doctors is that I didn't actually finish my statistics, but we'll go back to that. We'll go back to where I got that because it is actually, that is from the CDC because they break it all down. But a lot of what the media does is lump it all together. So
right, absolutely.
What I did want to go through was how
everything else.
Yes, but the U.S. vehicle deaths, 40,000 in 2017. Okay, and cigarette
smoking. You know why
I'm
laughing? Check out medical errors list numbers.
Really?
They're off the charts.
Imagine. I'm a living medical error still.
Yeah, that's off the charts.
But listen to this one. But 480,000 deaths annually, including deaths from secondhand smoke from cigarettes. And from smoking, and secondhand smoke causes, 7,333 annual deaths from lung cancer and 33,951 deaths from heart disease. So the opioid crisis basically was a narrative perpetuated and fueled by the mainstream media. The culpability lies where they used term opioid overdose deaths and didn't break it down for the people to digest instead of the more appropriate mixed drug interaction. So you listen on TV and you hear, oh my God, 70,000 or whatever the number was died, but they don't say it's a heroin fentanyl problem. They don't tell you. They mix it all up. People's brains get jumbled and they think that everyone that takes pain medication is somehow an addict. You have little old ladies that are like 75 and 80. Even me, I'm a little old lady. I mean, what the hell is the difference? Give me a quality of life. But they're afraid of becoming addicted, but they're in chronically horrible pain. But they've been drilled in, to feel this way. And the opioid,
Well, there's no doubt, Sandy, that there's a war on the opioid uh, the opioid addiction numbers here in America. Um, the I agree with you. The numbers of deaths coming just from taking prescribed opioids are probably significantly lower. But I think my understanding is that what we're facing is that a lot of people migrate from the use of prescribed opioids to heroin itself when those pills become uh, the supply is not there, or when their supply is cut off. And
instead of committing suicide, they go out on the street.
And in fact, the deaths I would suspect mostly come from heroin overdose rather than from the say a Percocet overdose. And so we've got EMS people now who travel around with naltrexone, Narcan, basically, because they see people strung out on some kind of heroin or some kind of opioid on the street, and they're able to save some lives that way. We just lost someone I knew last week to something in related to opioid addiction. What happens also is that when you get involved in the heroin, there's the payoff to the heroin dealer, and these people are chronically short of cash, so they sell their bodies or they just don't pay their bills, and some of them are murdered. I mean, it's just a whole
I wish I could show you
yarn about, and it all comes down to this so-called opioid.
Well, you certainly can show the screen.
I don't know.
Yeah, please do,
Sandra. If you want to share on Skype, share screen. I'll be able to get it on here.
Oh, I don't have it. I have it on my iPad. See, I'm looking at you on the MacBook, but I've got all the other crap on the iPad. It's my Luddite night, you know.
So of course, so what happened was crack was heroin. Basically, I mean, it comes from a similar source. Crack, was used in the inner cities, and nobody cared about it because it was just affecting inner city people. But once the opioid epidemic went into full effect, which people feel started with wanton, I don't want to use the word wanton prescriptions, but certain, there were pill mills and so on. There were pharmaceuticals pushing them. And of course, hurting people like you, Sandy, who really need them. But nevertheless, they were abused. And what happened is it entered Main Street. People's neighbors now were hooked out on heroin, which started from some kind of pain pill originally.
Do you think it's that? Do you have numbers on all that?
And so now, Sandy, the government is all focused, as you say, on this war against opioid addiction. And pharmaceuticals are under pressure because Endo discontinued Opana on their own. I guess they were feeling pressure to do so.
Yeah, they were. Doctors feel pressure also.
And Purdue Pharmacy, of course, who were pushing OxyContin. They were owned by a single family. At least they were started by a single family. I don't know if they ever got listed. They're now facing all kinds of lawsuits. It's just the zeitgeist right now is against you guys. It's going to be tough. It's tough for doctors to prescribe stuff for longer than 7 days. It's really tough for them. But
there's a CDC guidelines. They are not written in stone. There's a 90 MME morphine equivalent, that is the guide. I mean, I'm so far below that. I just got a new pain guy. I get 2 pills a day. And then how I live my life is I figure out what couple of hours or few hours of time do I want to use my medication so I can get the laundry done, or so I can look good on a live stream and do a live stream. But, that's a hell of a way to live, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
now, are you considered a fibromyalgia?
Yes.
Illness? Yeah.
But I have my major problems are the metal in my back from 3 back surgeries and my neck. Mm-hmm. This one this summer completely disabled me. I mean, my life is really ruined compared to what it was. But you're right. You're right on that with the big pharma. Big pharma is not innocent in this at all. and doctors and greed is really an underlying thing here, just like it is with the fossil fuel industry, just like it is with the tobacco industry. Greed really is the underlying thing here. But not having that, everything being all or nothing in our country is hurting hundreds of thousands of people.
So you're struggling, of course, to get what you really need.
Well, yeah, but I'm not, I don't want to be, it's all about me. It's all about them. What is it, Bernie? It's not me, us. A lot of us have this, and it's not just me. It's just, I know my reference of experience, but my research takes me to stories of people and the suicides that have resulted. But, when you use your medicine judiciously, and I've always been one of those, I guess I'm a little neurotic, always used it perfect, never did anything wrong. And if I didn't have to take the nighttime dose, I didn't, because I thought, well, I'm sleeping. I mean, I was like thinking that was the right thing to do, always. I never drank a lot with my medicine. I did everything right, except
Yeah.
I bought into the medical establishment with all these surgeries.
Yeah, I think one of the problems too is that when opioids are prescribed to people who have comorbidities, people who have mental illness, it combines with their illness.
That's where a lot of the statistics come from. They're breaking that down now.
What they call dual diagnosis people.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah, I found a couple things. This is just from personal empirical evidence, or maybe that I want to bounce this off you. I find that most of the fibromyalgia patients I run up against tend to be not run up against, but work with, they tend to be female. They tend to be between the ages of 45 and 60. I rarely run into males that suffer from it, but I do now and then. But it seems to be the overwhelming. Does this match with your research? This demographic of 45 to 55 tend to be females?
Yes, but when they gave me the diagnosis of fibromyalgia, I never even bothered with it. I didn't think about it, because I basically have my spine is it's paramount. I don't know what fibromyalgia might do to me. Those days when everything hurts or I have the trigger points or whatever, but I don't live my life about the fibromyalgia. I am definitely a degenerated spine. I've been, botched up with this metal and all that. But again, it's my story
Now, are you handling it through a sort of cocktail of pills or?
No, I'm good. I'm on medical marijuana here, which just made me get fatter and enjoy life a little bit better. But no, I detoxed myself with my doctor off of that Opan in 2017.
How long did that take?
It a couple of months.
Pretty unpleasant, right?
Yeah, and by the time I was still getting off it in 18. My husband had a heart attack. I mean, we just have had the most insane life. But I'm not a victim. It's just shit.
Now, did you start any of these Suboxone type of?
No, not me. I know. Why would I? I'm not an addicted person.
Right.
And I did not want that, because I don't want the stigma that I'm a drug addicted person.
Well, it seems to me I've had patients who have been on Suboxone or something like that for years, and I'm thinking, if you're on it for years, then haven't you just swapped one addiction for another?
For the other. Yeah, and but see, there's another political thing. The guys, let me get into the CDC corruption and all the bullshit that's gone on there. The guys, these people, okay, I'm going to read you a little snippet because my memory is not great. How was it that the CDC took advice from an anti-opioid advocacy group, Physicians for Responsible Opioid Prescribing, PROP, in constructing the opioid guidelines? PROP had lobbied federal officials and the FDA for years to change opioid labels when they were mostly rebutted. PROP got involved with the CDC in 2015, as in their opinion, the CDC broke the 1972 Federal Advisory Committee Act, FACA law. Washington Legal Foundation states that a core expert group advising the CDC conducted their research and draft opioid guidelines in secret without input from pain experts, pharmacologists, or patient groups. So no one doubts that the conflict of interest is there. Prop board members are involved with grants from the CDC, addiction centers, medical device companies to develop an opioid tapering mechanism, and even consulted with law firms investigating lawsuits against opioid pharmaceutical companies. All this is happening while the prescribing of the high-dose opioids continues to decrease. Over 41% between 2010 and 15, with a recent report showing further decrease 16% during the year 2017. But yet the deaths haven't. But see, there's this Dr. Kolodny, and what their thing was, they got the CDC behind them. They started this whole pill mill thing of raiding doctors and civil forfeiture, calling them pill mills and taking their money and kicking their patients to the street. It's a corruption. It's corrupt. And then what they also want to do is they partner with these medical device firms that want to give you implant stimulators and all kinds of like things that, Jesus Christ, a pill, one little pill for me. I couldn't have, but no, I have 10 units and I have friends that have these stimulators implanted in them that they have to charge themselves with a battery. I know people have different degrees of pain, but the profit motive is so high. Hydrocodone is a copay of $10. But if you get a medical device, such as what I got when I had my surgery, it was called a bone growth stimulator. It was like this big Elizabethan collar type thing. You put it around your neck, and this big box was right here by your thyroid, right, by your chest. And supposedly magical waves are supposed to stimulate the bones to grow together in the fusion. Well, I used that $7,000 device, right? And I was sick as a dog. I had a 95.5 fever. I was throwing up. I was dying from whatever was going on there. None of the doctors could say, oh, God, what's wrong? Nobody wanted to help me. I had migraines. I thought I was going to die. Took the thing off. I got better. And I told my doctor, and they still were like, well, geez, we don't know. I read the freaking book. The side effects were right there in the book for this ridiculously expensive medical device, which I promptly sent back because the second time I used it, I got the same result. And who wants to be sick? So I don't think that there's, I don't really think that the CDC and all these doctors are so pure in their motives to save people from addiction. They want to make money.
Now, Sandy, how do they, are they able to outweigh, say, Big Pharma's lobby, such as Purdue Pharmacy's lobby to continue the handing out of opioids?
Nobody hands them out.
Prescribing. Yeah, I'm sorry, my words are.
And that's because it's wrong. Because right now, to get anything for your pain,
difficult. Yeah, you're right.
Pretty much have to be. And I finally found someone who is working with me, who I like, who has a mutual respect, who I've educated on the activism going on out there, who agrees with me. But I think right now, you see, the pharmaceutical. Okay, if I could find that article.
Counter lobbies.
The pharmaceutical lobbies are very strong. Mm-hmm. But again, because of that swing, and you mentioned the lawsuits, the swing in the mood to be against that because, oh my God, they created drug addictions. You see, when your kid dies of an overdose, right away there's got to be a boogeyman. And I raised a kid for 4 years. I was with his father before I married my current husband. And I had things I wanted for this kid, but we didn't work out. Partly there was issues with the kid, and I could not raise him the way I thought he should be raised. And his father was a single father. The mother was pretty much out of the picture. Well, about a month and a half ago, that beautiful 23-year-old overdosed on heroin and died. Heroin. He never took a pill. 23. You know, his father had also been a heroin addict previously. He was straight for a long, long, long time. Addiction runs in families. These are the things you have to make sure you know about before you prescribe. So maybe doctors have to take a bit of a different take on, you know, aspect of in their prescribing practices, so that they can identify those people that would have the propensity to abuse, sell, or do that. And there are a lot of people that do that. I didn't even know there was that market. I was so naive.
You know, Brian and I are old enough that we remember when it was primarily a weed and acid or LSD type of drugs that people took recreationally or whatever. And suddenly heroin came back into the picture. And it seems
it was never out of the picture.
But it seemed to really come back in a big way. And it was natural to tie that in with opioid prescriptions. And certainly the government seems to have done that.
Well,
I mean, your statistics are saying that it's not quite.
Well, I'll give you links, and I'll give you links to everything. I am not saying that there were no doctors that weren't culpable for overprescribing or being lazy and not doing their homework with each patient.
Absolutely.
But that's not, you know, really the gist of it. I mean, there really is. There's a lot of conflict of interest going on.
You're being victimized, Sandy, by the current zeitgeist, which is heavily anti-opioid in focus, and I'm afraid that's not going away. That is
thousands.
It's building. It seems like it's building.
But so is the activism. I'm running into these. There's all kinds of activism groups now. Now the problem with pain patient activism. We hurt. We can't do what other activists can do. We can't. How are you going to get 10,000 people that are half, you know, can't walk, move, or whatever to DC to do any kind of? It has to be online.
Well, as you say, there's a stigma to it, and there's a stigma to it, and that's what makes it tough. I definitely hear what you're saying. Now, did you ever? The two common drugs that are normally prescribed for fibromyalgia are gabapentin and Lyrica. Did you ever have those in your?
Oh yeah, but I'm not taking it. The only thing gabapentin did for me was actually it was really great as a drug to take when you were tapering off an opioid. And then when it was done, I got off it. It took away the symptoms.
Well, of course, diabetics take them too for neuropathy, but there was a recent study indicating that both do long-term damage to the brain.
I won't take them.
Yeah.
See, I don't want to, and I'm working with a naturopath.
And they're the commonly prescribed ones, Sandy.
No shit, my brother-in-law's on it because they also kicked him off his pain medicine, which he was taking judiciously.
That doctors prescribe now
I got a new rheumatologist. She wanted to put me on Lyrica, but I don't want to. And here's another thing for me. I am watched by Big Brother because of the fact that I have a long-term disability plan from my job. It's a benefit. It's a benefit. I was in on that benefit. But I'm being, I am always being watched by the benefit.
Right.
They kicked me off. The minute I got Social Security, they got their money back, and then they started harassing me about my videos. And I didn't stop making them. I cut down on them, but you know what? This is what I was talking with Brian earlier. For me and everybody that's heard me ad nauseum on Environmental Coffeehouse, the videos, they're my way of diverting myself from pain and talking to people about the things that I'm interested in, climate change. I've cultivated an audience. I don't care if it's 5 people, if it's 10 people, YouTube, Facebook, whatever. We've changed a lot because Facebook does a lot of censorship, like where it didn't before. But it's also, and I made that point with my therapist, that The videos, these are therapeutic. This is therapy. And a lot of social media, people also want to put down social media, but social media is therapeutic for a lot of people. I don't leave the house for 4 days where I live, but
Right.
I'm sitting here with you guys, you know?
But it
And,
seems
and
to
I
me
think
that you have you've selected a very healthy and therapeutic way to address your pain. The medical, I mean, relatively healthy, of course. The medical marijuana. I'd like to say a couple of things about pain in general. Um, Pain. The doctors figured out that one people can suffer from pain that has no direct physiological origin. Okay. Now, in your case, you do have a physiological origin.
Oh boy.
But doctors did finally come to the realization that some people do actually experience pain. The brain pathways somehow will not turn off. And of course, the medical field has pretty much accepted the concept of phantom pain. That's the kind of pain you get when you've got an amputation, you no longer have a limb, and you're still feeling pain from that absent limb. So these are actually accepted by the medical community today, which might surprise a lot of people. And the reason, Sandy, why you've had a lot of trouble with doctors, I was reading this book called, I don't have it with me, it's called Complications. And doctors really dislike patients for whom they cannot seem to cure or cannot seem to treat in a satisfactory way. And I think you're getting a little bit of the pushback, probably.
Well, sure, because I've had failed back surgery syndrome. But again, like I say, I'm not a victim. I'm just trying to find answers. So whatever I can do to help somebody else, which has always been my MO in life.
Now, Fosfo, who is, I think he's a doctor, says all pain has a direct physiological origin. I wish I could get that quote. It's a pretty well-known book called Complications, written by a surgeon, and he has a chapter on pain, but which opened my eyes, certainly.
Well, I'm actually working with a naturopath who's helping me better than any of the prescriptions I had ever gotten. In the beginning, I was a bit of a skeptic, and now I'm not. The only problems, we're working on inflammation, but pain is just something. I watch Dr. Dispenza videos. I do everything I can to try to make my mind get me out of pain. But this is really there. It's from those devices in my body. But
right. So Fosfo says all pain has a direct well, I read that, but he said pain is just inflammation driven from multiple inflammatory cytokines. Now, Fosfo, so what about this concept of that these brain pathways in the brain sort of have their own independent existence that leads to chronic pain? Is there any, do you go along with that? I'd like to ask you.
I finally put on the questions. Hey, Osama. Hey, everybody. Oh, I see. Val asked Phosphorus, do you have pain? He understands, though, Val. He's a good one. He understands it.
Right.
He does. Because he's a naturopath. But I'm working with someone. I mean, my husband had the H1N1 flu this year, the actual flu. I never got it. I haven't gotten sick because I think that what I'm doing with the naturopath is working, and it's really great. I never really went that way before, and it's working except for my intractable pain.
Now, the disability oversight, is that, you said it's your company's policy, or is it the Social Security?
No, it's my organization, we contracted with a company, a financial company, to take care of the long-term disability benefit.
Okay.
And Actually, I got stuck with a company that we no longer use at my employer, my former employer, and they went back to the better insurance company. I'm stuck with one who, I think they really would like to kick me off because I got Social Security. They offered me a settlement. They tried to intimidate me. I came back and I said, no, I have the medical. I am disabled. I am not lying because I can make videos. After this, my neck is going to kill me because talking now, and I love to talk, and everybody knows I love to talk. But now I'm going to have to lay in bed because my neck is going to hurt with ice pack on because the metal, my vocal cords are at the metal.
I mean, are they giving you trouble by the fact that you're treating this through medical marijuana and not?
No, they're giving me trouble because I make videos. They think because I have a Facebook page, like that's work. I lay in bed with my phone.
So they want you to be comatose.
Well, who knows? As long as you fulfill the things, of course I fulfill it. I'm fucking broken. What do you want from me? Do you want to live my life, lady? I can't even bring a stinking piece of firewood in, and we heat our house with wood. I mean, I wanted to live the way I live because it's natural. We're not all the way off the grid. Osama's been to my home. He knows how we live. I wanted to stay as viable and healthy as I could, but I didn't know I was going to become this so fast,
right.
But if I had proper medicine like I did before, and I know that there's people out there that hate opiates and that, I'm not going to sit there and say they bought into the media bullshit of lumping them all together and not saying that we have a heroin fentanyl crisis, because we do. And I do agree with the, problem that there were unscrupulous doctors. There are always unscrupulous doctors, because we're going to segue into something a little bit in a minute. But for thousands of us, the opioid medication we were on for years was fine. No one was addicted. I went and got a master's degree, and I was on pain medication. I was functional. I was a higher level director in a university. And I've been on pain medicine for a long time. I was not an addict. I was helped. And when I retired medically, it was because my back I couldn't do the work. I couldn't travel. I couldn't do what I did. I did not have the ability to do the essential functions of my human.
How long ago was that, Sandy, that you did that?
2015.
Oh, so that's before they discontinued the Opana, but you probably couldn't get it anymore, right?
I wasn't on Opana until after I retired. I was just taking I would take 3 hydrocodones a day. I've never actually gone more than any of, I never went a lot. The Opana was 1 a day. It worked wonderfully because it was time release, and it really worked wonderfully. But it was I guess what I'd say is that pain medicine allowed me to do a good job, sitting there and being able to handle doing a little online thing.
I wonder if that's why they didn't like it. It probably had a long half-life, right?
They said it was being crushed and snorted, even though it was crush proof. Yeah, even though it was crush proof and snort proof. And I'm giving a lot of myself here.
You are.
I've done that before. My life is an open book. I have nothing to hide. I don't lie about anything. I am who I am, and I'm genuine. If I was not disabled, I would not have left a very high salaried, prestigious position to do what? Sit home and gain 50 pounds and eat and watch TV, do what? That's why we moved down here, because I thought it would keep me healthy, to do some gardening and to try to do the things. This year, I don't even know. Osama asked me a question. Do you have more pain since your surgery or before? My neck is destroyed, Osama. I mean, talking now is starting to really hurt back there. And I can't lift anything. When I went camping, which is the last time I'll ever go camping, just bending down to open the zipper in the tent created a lot of pain in my back. But I'm worse. And it's funny because I am going to be 60 years old next month. And this company, what do they think? I'm getting better? You know, they think because I make a few videos that I could sit there and get out of the house every day and work a full-time job when after an hour of talking I'm going to be with an ice pack. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. But you know what? I'm not that worried about them kicking me off. They have created almost a paranoid thing though. I get panic attacks. I never used to get those before. I wake up worrying that the rug and see, I'm like a lot of Americans. I wake up worrying that the rug is going to get pulled out from under me at any time because I'm on Social Security and I'm on this benefit. I am no longer my own person.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps a real concern.
Of course it is. And my husband had a motorcycle accident and a heart attack. So, you know, and you know what? We are those Americans. I got so scared that they were going to kick me off that he went and got a job cleaning toilets. And he was a contractor. So that's what we're faced with, you know, seriously. And he hurts and he's got metal in his arm. And I mean, he's a mess, but he's doing it because we're afraid.
Yeah, Sandy, I've always been surprised and confused by the amount, the level of animus that is directed towards people who are disabled. It's as if, hey, they're freeloading, or some of them are freeloading, and I have to work for a living. But they don't realize that the amount you get is not that great. I mean,
no.
It doesn't.
And I worked for 40 years.
Exactly, and that should help your case at least. But there's a lot of people that are getting like $700 a month. Who can live off that?
Well, I worked 20 years at the university, actually.
Yeah,
no,
so,
and I can't. And I don't have a big retirement either because I took. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was stupid. I wasn't the best at doing, you know, retirement stuff. I was so busy in my career helping everybody else. And I was the chief investigator for complaints. So I had to investigate sexual harassment complaints. I was training. I was doing a lot. And I was clueless as far as, you know, we're going down the rabbit hole for climate change. I knew it. I worked at a research institution. We did all the research on the Great Lakes. We did all kinds of different research, but it wasn't something I lived every day until after I left and I started learning. I reinvented myself.
What do you think they used for pain control when they had to saw off a naval officer's shattered arm back in the 18th century on a ship? Morphine. They used morphine, and probably laudanum as well. Laudanum, mm-hmm. Both of them. Yep, that's exactly what they use. Opiates. Mm-hmm. Opiates are the most effective pain control mechanism that man has discovered.
But and I'm not saying let's go throw them to everybody. Let's give somebody that gets a tooth pulled a 30-day supply of something they completely don't need. But I mean, that's, you know, that can go to the ridiculousness of greed, where the doctors were probably getting a kickback or doing something with the companies, which is going to segue me to the medical, again, back, you know, where I was talking about that other thing, you know, that bone growth stimulator, how to get you off opioids, they want you to do everything, including steroid injections, which I just found out. I just did the research on these epidural steroid injections, that there was a company telling doctors they are not for use in the spinal canal. And doctors, because they're desperate to help their patients in pain, are using these injectables in a way that the companies are telling them not to use. This was in the New York Times. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on out here. And, you know, as much as I say, oh, you know, I'm not into the conspiracy. Oh, they want to kill us. But when you think about cutting Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, what the hell is going to happen to a lot of older people? They're not going to have access to these.
Right.
And so they're not going to get anything for pain, and they're not going to have any money. There you go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to express that many people think that people on disability are on some kind of great gravy train, but that's not the case at all. They're struggling to get by financially. The vast majority of them, and no wonder. Do you want to get in on any of this, Brian? Anything you want to say on this?
I'm actually enjoying myself listening because I'm so much a fish out of water in this topic. I do have pains from time to time. I've been very, very lucky. Most of my war wounds are minor. So I'm just going to be a good listener tonight. And believe me, there's plenty going on in the chat room.
Don't ever hurt your back.
I don't want to.
I mean, you have to be cognizant of it because it's where a lot of us in the United States, I mean, we probably have a predominantly larger number than in other countries of all of these things. I haven't gotten to why that is yet because, there's not enough time in the day for me to do this. I feel good enough to research maybe for an hour, put it down, but definitely there is a reason why the United States has become, unless other countries just don't report the statistics.
I've got two untouched vials, one of Percocet, one is Norco, that was given to me when I was suffering from kidney stones, and those will end up in the waste bin in a hospital.
You recycle them.
Yeah, I throw them in that bin. I don't know what they do with them, but I just don't want to feed the fish Norco by throwing them away. Now, why did I get them? One was because I didn't really want to, but they were cheap. I think these are all in generic status, and there was like, with my insurance covers like $4 or something. I said, well, for $4, why not? But in the end, I end up just when I say tossing them, I mean properly disposing them in a hospital waste container. Because again,
down the toilet.
I don't want to feed the fish this kind of stuff by putting it down the toilet or whatever.
Right.
But
it's terrible.
But I bring this up, Sandy, to back up your statement where you said that there are some doctors that just prescribe them when they really don't need to. I didn't need any of that stuff. Motrin worked just fine for me for this issue I had with
kids. And that may have been because the doctors were pressured because they were given the dangled carrot of, if you use our product, you will do such and such, make such and such, whatever. Just like I found out that my doctor, who has implanted the instrumentation in my neck and the instrumentation in my back, he made $2.2 million in consulting fees with the company that is implanted in my neck and my back. And in fact, there's a whole thing on this. If anybody, I'll have to put up links or send you links because ProPublica did a phenomenal expose on, has your doctor received drug or device company money? Because doesn't it seem like it would be a conflict of interest for these dudes to be out there? My doctor made, and the highest doctor made $14.5 million. Now I'm talking about New York specifically. My doctor made $2.2 million from two companies consulting in 3 years. And he's put those devices into me. And my neck is the biggest cluster F ever. And it was a newly put on the market thing. We don't know all this. Then I get my records because I'm savvy and I wanted my records from the operating room so I could get all the names and numbers and all the stuff, what's in me, And then I realized, oh my goodness, the link system that's in my back has a whole bunch of problems that have been reported, but nobody tells me. And I still have pain. And I mean, I even went as far as to think, is it because of the metal in me? Is the metal doing something? But when I was in Florida seeing my mother got me into her doctor to get a second opinion, and he didn't think it was the metal. But
how do you know it's put in right, Sandy?
I don't. Another problem for me is I don't.
Maybe the angle is awkward or something,
Well, the guy in Florida said that they're fusing. He suggested I get a nerve conduction test, which nobody else did. But interestingly enough, with my doctor, and I'm not a paranoid person, but I had gotten tests to find out why am I hurting so much, and they're just saying to me, he tells me to go to physical therapy. I went to physical therapy. That rendered me horribly in pain for like 2 weeks. But I had these tests that they said, oh, call us on Thursday. We'll give you the results. Well, Thursday, I didn't hear from them. I called Friday. Oh, they were so busy in the office. They're just too busy to get to me, right? Really, I didn't hear from them till the week after. What I know and what I surmise is what happens in business. They had to have their meeting with the staff, and they had to all come together to figure out what are they going to say to me or another woman or whoever. Well, how are they going to handle the patients that are calling and asking why they are not feeling better and why they are deteriorating? I don't know. I always liked the guy, but I mean, now I'm learning he takes all this money. And what are the consulting fees? And then there was another article that I found, is it a conflict of interest? And there's a million articles. What can patients do in the face of physician conflict of interest? Spinal devices supplied by physician-owned distributors. The doctors own, and then they implant. So they make money off the implants, and then they make money off your surgery. Greed underlies, it's like the fossil fuel industry, the medical industry. Greed is the underlying thing here in every situation. I do not believe that people
Sounds like the USA, Sandy.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Oh, here, taking double cut, surgeon implant their own devices. So now it's another rabbit hole I found myself in. Trying to find out, was I stupid? Should I have researched this before? Or was I so desperate because when I got taken off the medicine, I couldn't sit for long because sitting was putting pressure. The discs were bad, but it was putting pressure on my neck, and I had terrible neurologic pain, and I couldn't do anything then. So I thought, desperate, he says, well, you'll be back, and I was back.
Well, Val is asking, why are you people so scared of a medication? I guess that's, is he referring to other people in the chat? And what medication?
Well, what's going on?
What medication might he be referring to in this case? I don't know.
Probably any of our any of the opioids. I know he doesn't like them, but he doesn't begrudge somebody something they need. Not Valhalla. I'm talking about phosphorus. Val is more like, Val is saying, give somebody what they need, evaluate them, work with them closely.
Well, we have to be careful with with any kind of prescription medications because many of them are pretty much poisons. I've come to the conclusion. Some of them are necessary poisons, but so many of them have side effects that are debilitating, potentially debilitating.
I'd rather
that's why we worry about it. Opioids lead to constipation. It leads to reduced respirations.
Depending on how much
there's some things that could lower heart rates. I mean, it could do some damage to certain people, I guess, in general.
Not everybody needs it. I'm not saying, there's a lot of people that have a great tolerance to pain. My husband hates them. Never take a pill. He's got more pain from all the crap. I mean, this man has been through hell and back, and he doesn't take them. And me, I have none of his ability to stave off pain for some reason, and I do a lot to try. I mean, swimming and all that, and then the swimming, I overdo it, and then my back is killing me for 48 hours, but I'm doing it anyway because I want to lose this weight.
Well, Val, I'm sorry to interrupt. Val says the side effect of chronic pain could be suicide. Well, I work in behavioral health. The trouble is that opioids, in conjunction with someone who suffers from depression, that's what leads to suicide. That is a greater risk. And that includes benzos, by the way, that they do, it does increase the feelings of depression.
But how about when somebody has a prescription for, let's say, a Klonopin? They have a panic disorder. I have a friend like this. She never takes them, but when she gets her panic disorder, her panic start, she takes it, and she's like a normal new person. So the drug is doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, it does for a period of time, but the problem is tolerances are developed for benzos, dependencies are frequent, and some doctors feel that anxiety itself is not a diagnosis, that it arises from something else like depression, that depression ultimately is what is creating the anxiety. And so they prefer to treat the depression rather than some doctors. I'm saying we've got it mixed where I work. So they feel that it's more important to deal with the depression and handle the anxiety that way. So we got different philosophies.
Yeah, sure. I don't know enough about the benzodiazepines, those I don't, to comment on them. I really don't. I would imagine that, like anything, they were developed for a therapeutic reason, and like anything that humans do, they were overused, like alcohol and cigarettes and every other vice. The same thing with
Sandy,
this.
Where I'm scared to take a single one of any of them, and I'm scared to take a lot of pills. Actually, I'm like your husband.
Yeah, but I don't either. See, the thing is, he had a heart attack. He gets up in the morning. He has to take an entire regimen of all kinds of shit,
right.
For the heart and all,
right.
and high blood. I don't have any of that. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have cholesterol. I take nothing in the morning. Absolutely
I do.
nothing.
I take a beta blocker.
No, I take nothing. I just take what my I take what my at night what my naturopath sent me. Okay, because we're working on all these different
I'm listening. Let my cat in. I'm listening.
And then I have something else we're working on, tissue damage, and I have a lot of faith. And even if it's my my own, my brain working to try to make this happen, make myself better. But I don't believe my brain is going to make myself better over these things in my spine that are. I still have 2 discs in my neck that have fallen. So all of you out there that are in the comments, I mean, so many people are disabled. I come across, and they write to me about all these different things, kratom, and somebody sent me the other day all about MDMA, treatment, and then there's mushroom treatment, LSD treatment. There's so many things out there. I don't want to do any of those. All I want to do is just take 1 or 2 pain meds a day. That's it. Smoke my little vape, and I don't want any other things. But I guess I'm not the norm. Maybe I'm not the norm.
You probably aren't. Brian, you want to get in on this?
Like I say, I'm going to be a good listener tonight. I have enough work to do just getting the comments in and moving back and forth. I'm fascinated.
How do you think I'm trying to look at the comments, but I don't know.
This is the book I was referring to. It's called Complications, Surgeon's Notes on an Imperfect Science. This is written by a surgeon. It was written about 2001. He's got a chapter in pain. And in this, he says that they have come up with, let's see if I can find it. Looks like I didn't highlight it, unfortunately, to make things a lot easier for me. But they've come up with so the doctors were confused as to why you could encounter a patient who has a chronic pain without physical findings to account for it. And
that was in 2001.
Yeah, she wonders how a pain can be so incapacitating yet arise from no identifiable physical abnormality. But to the book's credit, it does say later on that the doctors, some research has discovered that you can get this pain without any, at least easily identified physiological reasons.
Is that complex regional pain syndrome?
Well, I think it's fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia.
We're looking at, yeah.
Yeah, in your case, I don't know though. The rheumatologist diagnosed me with it, but again, I don't take anything for it. and I deal with whatever it is I think I might feel. I don't even know. I have way more issues with the spine. So, I don't know what, I haven't gone to look at the interactions. Maybe I am, I mean, my husband, he'll hug me and I hurt, and then he gets mad. I was like, I'm a China doll. Sorry, honey. You're a big 6'1". I don't want to just go like that. I can't.
Well, with his accidents, he sounds like he's a China guy too.
Well, but he's not. Even though he's broken up, that's a tough guy. He's a tough guy.
Phosphor is saying you should take magnesium citrate, Paul. Why? What does that do? Tell me more.
Really. Why? Because of the way he looks fine.
I'm the guy that hates pills, and I got to take them. I hate them. I got all kinds of pills here. Mostly for blood pressure and high triglycerides.
Oh, Basil's out there. Hi, Basil. Hi. Everybody. Torstein's here, and Osama.
Yeah, we've got the same people.
Vegematic was here. Good. This is cool.
We've got the same people pretty much.
Well, some of them I don't know.
So it's nice to have you on where we're all here together.
I guess the closing, for me would be, again, I just think it's not black and white. I do think there's a lot of political undertones to this whole thing. It's never gone away. 100 years we've been fighting this stinking drug war, and we're losing, and I lost a kid a month and a half ago. And so, that I raised for 4 years, and it was at the funeral, his mother, me, and the one after me, all three of us were together.
Well, I think you're right, Sandy. That's my conclusion from this discussion tonight. I think you're right that, well, after all, we do allow guns, though legalize guns, though guns can kill people, right? Why can't we make medications available for those who really need them, even if people do abuse them? But I guess that's just the way it works.
It's the all or nothing. It's the all or nothing, no gray area.
It's a very legalistic society we have here, and as you said, it all comes down to money and influence, and
unfortunately, it is, and it's capitalism, and we're on capitalism on steroids, and you really, people just can't understand that the undertones to every single thing we do is greed, growth, the infinite growth on a finite planet. And that is basically, in the medical communities, the same thing, in the climate change, fossil fuel. I mean, it is. It is what it is, right? Right.
I mean, I think, we've done a pretty good job. You have, Torsten has, Guy McPherson has done a pretty good job of pointing out some of the ails of our system. For me, Brian certainly talks about the cracks and faults of our political system. I talk about the cracks and faults of our social system, along with our economic system, which I believe is exploitative to the highest degree. And if nothing else, at least hopefully we're helping to educate or reinforce others with similar understandings.
I think we are, and I like your group now, the Reality Report, and I'd like to link it to ECH. I think that would be great. We are
linked.
We're linked in as a group, because I have a group. I just like to link you off my page so that when people come to my page, we have those groups that we say, hey, go, because somehow the page has 10,600 something followers, but it doesn't mean that they follow every day. I mean, it's, I see ebbs and flows. I see we don't get out there at all. Facebook is really frustrating. Sometimes I just want to give it all up. I'm thinking, why is Jonathan and the team that works on the page, why are they knocking themselves out if, nobody's reading it? But then you see that people are reading it, and you see if you've touched 3 or 4 people by an article that maybe they didn't see or didn't know. But I also find something else interesting. It's pretty meme generated. the good, big, meaty science articles don't get
Yeah.
to read. But if I put up a simple meme that just gets to somebody's
that hits
emotion,
home.
1,250 shares.
Yeah.
2 shares on a scientific article.
Absolutely true. I'd like to say that Brian and I, we've been rather fortunate in our Reality Report Facebook page in that people do read the articles. We've got a dedicated crowd that posts wonderful stuff. And they're meaty. And I get a lot of my news from reading those that other people put on our page. I don't know how it worked that way, Sandy. It just kind of happened on its own. It's not like Brian and I, had a design to get that, to get it that way. It just kind of worked out on its own.
I like it. Well, maybe it's because you two are good admins and you're also fostering critical thinking. And maybe my page is not quite like that. Our page, I don't know. Mine. It's not mine. It's there's a team and nobody's I'm not the boss. I just have the face. I had the face. But no, we try to foster critical thinking, but all my efforts don't always pay off in the comments. So I hope it does for yours.
Sandy and Paul, you have to forgive me. I'm going to actually go back to a conversation that Sandy and I had prior to you coming on the call. And I go back to the 1990s, the early 1990s, the infancy of the internet, where, I think in a way it was better then because, you'd have to deal with the ads and things like that. But the network, the connection, and these are things that could not have happened 40 or 50 years ago. We were able to find like minds all over the world. For example, we have members from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, or whatever. And Sandy, I'm sure you have the same thing. And it's a wonderful thing. And as Paul has said, we're not a big channel, and none of us are really going to go over 10,000 on YouTube, or at least not 100,000.
Get to 1,000.
No, right, just getting to 1,000. But that just goes to show you that you have to look at your markets. You also have to understand that the way the algorithms work, we're not going to. And it's not like they sit behind a table and they try to block us. It's just, it's just the way it turns out. It's like rock, paper, scissors.
I think what Brian is saying is that the stuff we talk about is not conducive to going viral. There's just nothing here.
No.
We're not showing
I think that
we're not showing, it's just not part of what we talk about, I guess.
There are things one can do to gain more subscribers. I think that when you're more entertaining, we're not always entertaining. We're not even always ourselves. The way Paul and I talk with each other on the telephone is slightly different than the way we talk in the reality. We keep it real.
Yeah, I call Brian all kinds of names on the telephone.
Paul, there's certain things he can talk about on the telephone that he can't talk about here. And it's the same thing for me. I have to be very careful. I am not exactly the same person live as I am on the reality report because I have to be careful about my job because I'm just constantly filtering in my head what I can't say and what I can say. On the other hand, within those parameters, we go fairly far. And like I said, we have this community, which is fascinating because it never could connect without the internet. On the other hand, the internet has changed into this big money-making monster called Google, and we're never going to become big. But, it depends on what you want out of it, too. Paul and I have never just been whores for subscribers. We wanted some, but we know that we're not going to get the 100,000 subscribers unless something, like an interview with Bernie Sanders or something like that.
They don't even get 100,000.
Right. Maybe if we join the EC team, we can grow, you see?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's...
But if you talked about things, if you talked about a flat earth, or if you talked about the Ice Age, or if you talked about Agenda 21, you'd have 100,000 people, but that's where our culture's at.
No, I think what gets the viral videos is you're showing a cop beating up somebody live, or you're showing an animal or a fish being rescued, stuff like that. And we're just not into action here because it's a talking mechanism.
You're right, though. The articles with animals, and I'm an animal lover with 5 cats.
Oh, we all are.
The animal, yeah, they do get the views more so than the science stuff, and I like to put up all the sciencey stuff, but
we're also, in a way, we're sort of dangerous, all of us, because all three of us, and I think I'm speaking for you, Sandy, from what we talked about, we're all atheists, number one. We tend to be left politically. Some of the things we say just rub people the wrong way, even on the left, as you and I discussed.
Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit? I mean, the atheism, why the three of us are atheists? You want to go into that really quickly?
Sure.
What about you guys out there?
Sandy, how did it start, and what has it meant for you over the years?
Well, I never really had, I never believed it. I had an atheist father. We never really did anything. My mother tried to do a little bit of religious stuff with us, but truthfully, I never believed it from the beginning, and I couldn't understand how did people worship something they didn't know, and it just stayed with me. I've lived my life not as a, maybe, I don't even know if it's a spiritual feeling or person. Just how about a good person or a loving person or a caring person at my job? I don't believe that I want to worship a deity. I don't know what happens after death. I don't like idolatry. I don't like any of it.
So and you had no choice coming up with a moral imperative outside the confines of a religion, right?
No, I was never stuck in a religion. I've been to every kind of church, Catholic church, temple, Buddhist, but I see it. I never see it as a part of it. I always look as the outsider inside, looking in at what their behaviors are, what are they doing, and why are they doing it. But I never felt it, and I've never been able to feel it, and I don't want to.
Right. No, what I was trying to say is you had no trouble coming up with a moral structure, even though you weren't brought up under religion. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I had no problem.
I don't know why Christians think that atheists are automatically amoral. I don't understand that.
Well, if you saw me at 24, I was amoral. I mean, I was running around the country on motorcycles and, but that had nothing to do with religion. It had to do with fun at the time.
Right.
But no, I have I have a moral compass, and that my moral compass is I guess gained by what was around me, by my environment, by where I went, by what I put myself in. I believed in myself. But I never felt like I needed to worship something or necessarily follow. No. And I didn't like it. I mean,
probably like both of you, I've had countless discussions with so-called believers, and I've come to the conclusion that the very reason that made you atheists, Sandy, and made me atheist, meaning I couldn't believe any of it. It was all nonsense. That very reason is what makes them believe so fervently in what they believe in. In other words, it's the irrationality of it, the impossibility of it, and they lump it under faith as the justification for believing that 2 + 2 = 8. Okay?
And they get stuck in it.
They get stuck in it.
I mean, it's an indoctrination. You're going to church every week. You're getting indoctrinated every week. You're getting your shot at dope at the church.
Well, Brian is very articulate on the subject. He has been.
I've never been so offended in my life.
No, you've been very articulate on the subject of atheism.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I've discussed the Brothers Karamazov and how I got my philosophy on life, but I think in general, I had an anger toward what my parents called God. My father was Jewish. My mother was a devout Lutheran. But I saw the way animals were treated in nature and in the world. And, all you had to do was just look at an animal that's dying or is dead, look at its eyes, and you knew that it was unfair. And this idea that it's been promoted, this Judeo-Christian, and I'm sure within Islam, especially within Islam, the idea that we have dominion over animals. I was always on their team. I always cried when my pet died, but I wouldn't cry when a relative died. It was just something that I felt rather than I rationalized. It's something that I knew was right when I was 4. And, you know, I could tell you 1,000 different things about why I'm an atheist, but it comes down to those days when I couldn't even articulate, as you say, articulating it well. When I couldn't even articulate anything, I could just feel that that's wrong. There's something really wrong. And it seems like the big guy is endorsing that. And I didn't want it. And I hated it. And no matter what people said, no matter what Santa Claus or what idea of Moses and righteousness, which I understood. I read the Bible in Hebrew. I can still poke my way through it. You know what I mean?
Backwards.
Yeah. You know, I guess they chiseled right to left. That's why they wrote right to left. But again, it came back to my animals, and it wasn't fair. It just wasn't fair, and I blamed this God. Now, of course, now I can't blame it no more than you could blame God for the bad things, because there is no God. But that was the answer, and it was the very thing that my grandfather supposedly said in 1953 when he died. He screamed to my father as he was dying and said, "God, what did I do?" And I thought it was just kind of a rhetorical question, because I think he really knew the answer. It was he didn't know what he did wrong. He went to France for 2 weeks. Mustard gas ate his lungs out. He was in pain. We're talking about pain till 1953.
Jeez.
He couldn't work, and my father couldn't answer him. But there was really, he knew the answer just by his question when he said, "God, what the hell did I do in my life? What was wrong? Why did I deserve this?" And the answer is, of course, if there was a God, that wouldn't happen. And unfortunately, there isn't a God. So anyway, I think it's the things you feel. It's almost like when you're crying, it's almost an intellectual thing at some point, because it's not something you can put a word on. It's something your brain translates as, hey, that's really bad. Just like the idea of dying. It's, you know, you kind of feel like somebody from 100,000 years ago when they would see something that they loved just lying there still, and you say, you know, that doesn't look good. There's something about that I don't like, and it looks like I'm going to be like that one day. I'm going to work hard as hell and try to be a good person and do great things, and it's going to end like that. You know, and it's going to be this video that's going to outlive all 3 of us. Somebody's going to watch this 200 years from now if we still have a planet.
You think?
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
You're
Because I see many pictures that I've picked up, and we've all done it. I don't care. I mean, I have not even talked about this with you, any of you today, but I'm sure you've picked up photographs from the past, and you think about that person.
Oh, sure.
We all do it. At some point.
I do it with TV shows. They're all dead.
Well, this is my point. Eventually, somebody's going to see it. And all you have to have is one person see it. It'll have some meaning in a certain sense. You'll push yourself forward. And somebody will wonder, you know, what was that person thinking? They'll be lucky enough that they can actually hear us. Now, we may be so archaic 300, 400 years from now, or not. Who knows? But we were. Like William Shatner says, people cut me up because I was a has-been. But remember, I was. And as long as you were. See, there's a difference between being dead and never having lived. And this is why even the discussion right now is important. Because someday we're going to be gone. But it has to mean something to me. Like I say, I have debts to repay. And this is why I'm an atheist. Because I'm so goddamn angry at my life. And I've lived a good life for the most part. You know, it's something that I knew when I was 4. I tried to like God. I tried to understand it, and I pushed myself into that thinking, and it never ever felt comfortable. It was so so wrong. It was kind of like a bowel movement in your pants, and you say something doesn't feel good here. You know what I mean?
Oh.
That's pretty disgusting. But I'm saying it's what it is. It was a shitty feeling, you know, and
shitty feeling.
You know?
Well, Brian brought up something. I think
I don't know why I said that. That's pretty crude, but
no, it's great. Epic.
Sandy, did you also feel, at least in the past, if not in the present, that you felt more sorrow over the death of an animal than for humans?
Sometimes, yes.
But
I really do feel sorrow over deaths of humans. My girlfriend died last year, and it was horrible. So it's depends on what it is, who it is, and what they affected my life like. But animals have always been important to me. I mean, I have my animals all over in the drawer over there, and their little things. And with my father, I have his ashes with my dogs and my cats. Oh, they're all together.
But they do animals. You know, some people always ask, why do you treat that animal like it's a human? And the quick answer is they need you more. It's the people who need you more that you kind of attach yourself to. And animals have such a raw deal in life. It's, you know.
They do, and we eat them, you know.
Well,
too.
Absolutely, and that's a big problem. All you had to do is, and again, when you're a kid, do you remember Marlon Perkins' Mutual of Omaha? You know, and then, you know, everything's going well. You see this bird flying around, and all of a sudden you had to get to that scene where that cheetah's running after the, I don't know, gazelle or whatever, and then you knew it was going to happen, and that poor little baby is going to get stalked. But that's you. That's me. Eventually, we're going to be that thing. Unfortunately, some people get away with it a lot longer than others, but it's a horrible, horrible system. I want to pretend in my mind that it's not even real, that it's just, I've got to wake up from this all. I am so angry. As much as my life's been okay, folks, I know I'm philosophizing here. I am so angry at life that I want something back from it. I want all the debts to be unpaid. I want all the poor bastards who got killed in the war when they were 18 and never experienced a touching another person, never, you know, could smile and have a good day. You know, I remember my father said he felt so bad. My father went to West Philadelphia High School in 1939. This is right before the war. A girl in his class committed suicide, and she left a note at West Philadelphia, and she said, I'm doing this because I just wish I could have had one happy day in my life. And my father said, you know, I guess the guys there didn't find her attractive, and he said he felt so bad after that if he could just have taken her to, you know, get some ice cream or something like that, he would have done it. He didn't know, but he felt so bad that somebody had to live a life that she felt she didn't even have one good day. You know, that's tough. It's terrible. And you know what?
8,000 years humans have been like this.
You know, and yet some are happy. The same. I don't want to go deep into this, but or even not even that deep.
Do another show.
Princess Grace was actually close for a couple weeks with one of my father's friends, and you know that was like the top of life there. And then there's somebody who's struggling. So Princess Grace would meet the nicest looking guy from West Philly and date him and more. And then the poor girl, well, we knew what more was, but I'm not going to go into it. But I'm saying you see the highs in life and the lows in life. And for that girl, she didn't have one happy day. And this is why I'm angry. I'm angry for all my dogs who died. I'm angry for my friends who died. I know that it's wrong. This whole thing's wrong, but I can't.
Brian, you couldn't control any of it.
No, I couldn't, and that's why I'm so angry, because I want to control it. I mean, I want spaghetti to come out of my fingertips. I want something weird to happen to stop this crap, but there's nothing aside from like antinatalism, and that's unfortunately it's the pragmatic.
So Brian,
one.
I suspect it's not really the death that you're angry about; it's the suffering.
Absolutely, because if you're not alive, you're not suffering. I get that whole thing. I mean, everybody's talked about that, but the entire process is so flawed, And for people to look at this, and because they've had a good life, and say, "Hey, this is great. Don't give up. Don't tell me. Remember the girl who didn't have one happy day. Remember that dog that got run over. Who's going to say a prayer for that dog, or that cat, or that turkey, or that whatever animal? It's so bad. I really want to wake up from it all, but there is no waking up. It's a bad movie. You're in it. You're in it. You're in it, and people get mad at me for even discussing this, because they say, well, this is very much a downer. You want to live your life and be happy. Sure you do. I hope you all live your life.
But you're sensitive. These things affect you. You have more depth than other people.
I don't know. I just selectively find that.
I can compartmentalize these things that are so sensitive to me. I compartmentalize the bigger picture of the climate, of how we WASF. I compartmentalize things so I can get through the day. But I find a happy something every day, even if I'm miserable.
Right, but again, there are debts to be repaid. There will be good days. There are good cycles within those bad cycles every once in a while. You're right, and you should try to have positive experiences rather than negative ones. But I feel so bad for those before, and there's nothing you can do. No matter how good it is in the future, those who have been, quote unquote, have suffered, those people never get that second ticket, as far as I know. I don't see any other route. I don't see any redemption in this thing. It's really hell. It's really hell for the most part. I want it straightened out, and it's not going to be. And
so you have to have acceptance, and then you have to be able to accept that you're not in control of all of this, and you have to control your own emotions.
I don't want to disagree. I don't have to accept it, but I have to endure it. I have to endure it. And I don't accept it. But what am I? I don't accept Donald Trump, but I have to endure it.
Maybe that was the wrong word.
No, that's all right. I'm just saying.
It might have been the wrong word. I'm just grasping here
more
because I feel it. What your frustration.
Well, I don't even like talking about this, Sandy, that much, because I don't want people who tend to be more negative than I am to go farther that way. You wouldn't want to watch this with a gun in your hand. You know what I mean? I just know that it's not the proper thing. I wouldn't want to tell one of my students at school this philosophy. It's not, I don't want to ruin the good day that they could have from talking shit like this. But I do have some claims on this life. I blame the God that doesn't exist. And everybody who says there's a God, they're guilty to me. They are perpetuating the myth, and that myth is, as Lenny Bruce said, it's a terrible, terrible lie that's been going on for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. He said that the truth is what is, and everything else is a terrible, terrible lie. And he was right, and he paid the ultimate price for it because he internalized it. And I struggle with it every day. I am so goddamn angry.
I'm sorry.
Well, look, I'm angry at a God that doesn't exist. It's very hard to. That makes no sense whatsoever.
I'm angry at a God who thinks he's my husband. I had to break that up. We have to bring a little.
I am really sorry for ending this on a down note here. I really didn't want to do this.
It's not a down note. It's a different note. It sounds like something that can be fleshed out and talked about in its entirety in another show for you guys. You brought up some really very serious issues, I think. But, back in the comments, Human had said, and I want to find it because I liked it. Oh, Human, where is it? Oh, the secret is the here and now. The past and the future are not real, just illusions of the brain. And the here and now is what we have to work on, every day. Despite, for me, despite I'm miserable, I find all these things to distract me from being miserable. Even the cats, any little thing. I guess it's just, my attitude.
I guess you say we deserve the right to be happy if we want to be happy. I just say that I don't know if I feel that I deserve to be that happy, because I can never be happy when I think about how the way 2 of my dogs died. I can never be happy and say I love my life, because all I have to do is think back, and it happens every day, how they died and how I tried to save them. It was vicious.
You think about it every day?
Every day. Every single day.
I lost dogs and it killed me and it hurt, but I don't think about it every day.
It's the way they died. It's not all of them. It's the way they died. I tried to save them.
And I don't associated with this. Brian.
I have not a day where I don't think about that. My wife thinks about them too. It's traumatic, and it goes back to when I was 4.
A lot of damage.
And I was pissed off at my mother when I was 4 years old. She tried to somehow make me feel better about my bird that died. I said, "Why does that have to die? It only lived for like a couple of weeks." And she said, "Well, don't worry, it's going to heaven." And I knew something was wrong with it because it looked very still. I said, "I don't like this." And I knew that something wasn't right about what she said. And from that day on, I just said, there's something about these animals that's so noble. Every one of them.
Because they go by instinct, and they didn't have they don't murder for fun. They didn't have violence for fun. Everything was for the search for food, instinct, and territory. They didn't have that where they go and they could make free will to just say, "I'm going to kill for killing sake."
And they needed
some of the
me
animal
too.
kingdoms there are. I think that there has been some demonstration of in the baboon community, but they're closer to humans. But this is a whole thing. I think we can get off.
We've discussed a little bit about the baboon community with Sapolsky's studies of the alphas and the betas. That's another issue that we could go on forever. I think we're going so far out now. I mean, I'm afraid to keep going because I actually have to go to bed really soon.
Let's then get a handle on this. We've got the commenters are talking, and they're going off on all kinds of different things, and that's really cool. I love that in the comment section, because I love when I'm in the comment section doing the same exact thing. But thank you everybody for being here and listening to me again whine about it. But I didn't want to really go into my own health. I wanted to go into what's going on from my research in this whole opiate thing, which is, again, it's a mess. But we need to find the gray area, and we can't leave all those people out that actually benefited from their medication, that weren't selling it, that were living decent lives, and now are forced to be painted with an addict brush. I mean, for God's sakes, I was in Buffalo last week, and there were billboards up there that said, "Talk to your grandma about opioids. Talk to your mother about opioids." What's the subliminal message? That, oh boy, grandma or grandpa has a problem because they have pain and they're taking some medicine.
You certainly have brought those points forcefully home tonight, Sandy. I was just kind of thinking, suppose someone loves guns and they saw a similar sign about guns. They'd probably be equally offended, right? And they usually are. How do we approach that?
Guns? That's another hour we don't have.
Can anyone say one quick thing about Buffalo? Because Buffalo, people always talk badly about Buffalo. And I don't know whether you actually live in Buffalo or not, Sandy, but
I did.
I played hockey up in Buffalo and Tonawanda as a teenager, and I actually thought it was a nice place, and the people were really hip. Whoever said that Buffalo is a dirty city by the lake, it is not.
My God, no.
It's beautiful.
It's a hip city. I raised my kids. She had a great life. She's 30. She's doing good. She lives in the city. She bought a house because she didn't want to pay taxes in the suburbs. So she bought a great house, but in the city. I got my career here. I worked at the university. I mean, I don't know if those doors would have opened for me if I wasn't in the Buffalo area at the time.
Right.
24 years I lived off Lake Erie. It was nice.
There's nothing wrong with Buffalo. I never saw anything wrong with it.
$5 an hour research assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked my way up to the director of HR research function. So, I mean, it was pretty cool. I had all these opportunities.
Right.
I'm very blessed and lucky. Blessed not in a religious way, blessed in a spiritual way that these happened. I worked hard for everything I got, just like everybody else has.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on tonight, Sandy. And certainly we'd love to do this again sometime. Maybe we could even join your show if you know how to do this kind of triptych.
Yeah, I do it on Facebook, but I think I'm going to try to figure it out on YouTube now. It's time.
Really appreciate all the discussions. I know I segued down to the religion thing. I thought we had enough time to address that at least get a start on it.
Well, that's a can of worms.
Obviously we tend to share a lot of the same viewers, so which is nice. So for everyone joining us tonight, really appreciate it. Appreciate the panel. Appreciate our viewers. And Brian and I will probably be on again. I don't know if Brian's able, but certainly Friday I think I have off. And
Friday should be good. Saturday's bad.
I've got Monday as well, so we'll work out something.
All right. Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you for
guys.
joining us.
I enjoyed this. It was wonderful. Thank you. It was nice to be on somebody else's venue.
Great. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night. Bye. Peace, guys.